Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Israel threatens to resume fighting if Hamas does not respect Gaza truce deal, while Hamas says it has handed over all hostage bodies it can access. Trump authorizes CIA operations in Venezuela, raising pressure on the South American country. Maduro government says it is a violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. India's Minister of State Kirti Vardhan Singh reaffirms country's support for Gaza peace plan at the NAM Ministerial Committee meeting on Palestine in Uganda. Says two-state solution is the only path to achieve lasting peace and overall prosperity. In view to strengthen the bonds of friendship and deepening bilateral ties, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka Harini Amarasuriya to arrive in India today. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati will also visit. The Indian city of Ahmedabad recommended as the host city for 2030 Centenary Commonwealth Games. Israel's defense minister threatened on Wednesday to resume fighting if Hamas does not honor the terms of a US-backed ceasefire that halted the conflict in Gaza. The statement from Defense Minister Israel Katz's office came after Hamas's armed wing said that it had transferred all the bodies it could access and that it would need special recovery equipment to reach more bodies promised under a ceasefire deal. Since Monday, Hamas has handed back 20 surviving hostages to Israel in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners freed from Israeli jails. Hamas had already returned the remains of 7 of the 28 known deceased hostages. Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has threatened to cut off desperately needed aid supplies to Gaza if Hamas fails to return the remains of the soldiers. Israel, meanwhile, transferred another 45 Palestinian bodies that had been in its custody in southern Gaza, bringing the number returned to 90. Under the Trump plan, Israel is to return 15 Palestinian dead for every deceased Israeli hostage. US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that the US military will not be needed to disarm Hamas militants. Trump said that the US would support Israel in the effort and that US wants Hamas to give up their weapons as part of the Gaza deal reached last week.
We won't need the US military. We won't need it. Well, because we're very much involved in it. If we weren't involved, there wouldn't be peace. If we didn't destroy the nuclear capability of Iran, that deal would have never happened for two reasons. The Arab nations would not have felt bold enough to do it because you have a very powerful, at that time, Iran. It's not powerful anymore between what Israel and us did.
Meanwhile, United Nations humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher said on Wednesday that Israel would immediately open crossings into Gaza for humanitarian aid. The crossing remained shut on Wednesday despite reports that it could reopen to aid the convoys.
It should happen now. We want it to happen immediately as part of this agreement. As I said, 2-3 days ago, we were getting in at that number. The last couple of days have been lower, and we want to get back to the correct number and deliver at scale.
All right, DD India's Jessica Taneja joins us with the latest on this. Jessica, how do you view the situation? Israel has said that it will resume fighting if Hamas fails to honor the terms of the US-backed ceasefire. And on its part, Hamas has said that it has handed over all the bodies it can access. How do you read the situation? How will it pan out?
Well, it's a moment of sensitive diplomacy, Preeti. If you look at what Hamas has agreed to, especially in the first phase, they said that they would release all the 20 hostages that they had alive, and the rest of the deceased, they had not made such promises because they said they didn't know the whereabouts of many of the deceased, since many of the Hamas militants or leaders or the group in general, the way they had been taking hostages and where the exact locations of the hostages were perhaps is unknown. So Hamas says it needs more time, perhaps to take this moment to look at the entire area and the geography, and to figure out where all are the bodies of the remaining deceased Israeli individuals there in the region. Now, when it comes to other aspects of the deal, Hamas had initially agreed, as per the deal that was discussed and signed in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, was the fact that they would disarm and gradually, of course, also leave the Gaza Strip if possible, because on the other side is the Israeli Defense Force, which had categorically stated that it would not leave or withdraw the Gaza Strip till the time Hamas is disarmed. Now, if you gather a few reports here and there, Hamas and its group and factions have now started out to target other factions within Gaza who had in effect either aided the Israeli forces or were acting against the interest of Hamas. Now that crackdown has begun, and Israeli forces have taken note of that and have said that it will be very difficult to implement phase 2 of the deal. And that is the more contentious and more important part, because that would enable long-lasting peace in the Gaza Strip until and unless there is a disarmament from the side of Hamas and a complete military withdrawal gradually from the Gaza Strip. There will be then peace restored in the region, which is of course quite a distant dream, because as you heard from the UN Under Secretary General as well, aid has not been flowing to Gaza at the level that it should. The estimated number of trucks to be sent to Gaza Strip with aid was supposed to be 600, but that is not happening. The inflow of aid is much more and smoother than before, but not at the level that would be able to help the population of 2 million people in Gaza who are starving and perhaps are in need of basic necessities. So the focus for many right now, and the people who are trying to ensure peace in this very fragile region, would want to certainly ensure that people are helped at the end of the day, and political entities that are still operating in a sense where that could harm the deal that has been very difficult to achieve at this point and has stopped fighting for some time. In case this returns, and in case Hamas remains politically active, it is going to be very difficult to move to the second phase of the deal.
All right, Jessica, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. In other news, US President Donald Trump has confirmed that he authorized the CIA to carry out covert operations in Venezuela. Now, this marks a significant turning point in Washington's pressure campaign against President Nicolas Maduro's regime. Trump said the decision came after intelligence reports claimed Venezuela was releasing prisoners, including those from mental institutions who later entered the United States through what he called an open border. He also blamed the Maduro regime for fueling America's drug crisis, alleging vast shipment of narcotics flowing in by the sea.
I think Venezuela is feeling heat, but I think a lot of other countries are feeling heat too. We're not going to let this country, our country, be ruined because other people want to drop, as you say, their worst. They have given us their worst. They've loaded up our country with prisoners, with mentally ill people that are seriously ill, criminally ill. And we're not going to take it. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things. And I can tell you, we've taken care of the sea. There's nobody, and we're watching. We're watching. And if we see it, we'll save it.
Venezuela has fiercely condemned US President Donald Trump's admission that he authorized CIA covert operations in the country, calling it a grave violation of international law and the UN Charter. Caracas accused Washington of pursuing regime change under the guise of security, with no one ultimate goal, it said, to seize control of Venezuela's vast oil wealth.
No al cambio de régimen que nos recuerda tanto a las fallidas guerras eternas de Afganistán, Irak, Libia, y pare usted de contar. No a los golpes de Estado dados por la CIA, que nos recuerda tanto a los 30.000 desaparecidos por la CIA en los golpes de Estado contra Argentina, al golpe de Estado de Pinochet y los 5.000 jóvenes asesinados y desaparecidos. ¿Hasta cuándo golpes de Estado de la CIA? América Latina no los quiere, no los necesita y los repudia.
In a statement, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Yvonne Gil said that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela rejects the warmongering and extravagant statements of the President of the United States, in which he publicly admits to having authorized operations to act against peace and stability of Venezuela. This unprecedented assertion constitutes a grave violation of international law and the Charter of the United Nations and compels the community of nations to denounce these patently immoderate and inconceivable claims. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that FBI employees and military personnel receive pay despite the federal government shutdown. Trump signed an order on Wednesday directing Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth to ensure active duty U.S. military personnel receive pay on October 15th, despite the federal government shutdown. Trump directed Hegseth to use for the purpose of pay and allowances to accomplish the scheduled disbursement of military pay and allowances for active duty military personnel.
Got a lot of people paid, actually. We got the people that we want paid, okay? And we want the FBI paid, we want the military paid. We got the people that we want paid. And I'll tell you, the Democrats, they don't talk about this. You know, we're getting rid of programs that we didn't like, but that were negotiated in, but we didn't like. We're terminating those programs, and they're going to be terminated on a permanent basis.
A federal judge in California has ordered U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to halt mass layoffs of federal workers amid the ongoing government shutdown. Justice Susan Ilston granted unions' request to block job cuts at over 30 agencies, calling the administration's politically motivated layoffs unlawful. The decision temporarily shields thousands of employees after Trump extended a federal hiring freeze and vowed to downsize what he labeled Democrat agencies. The White House has already notified over 4,000 workers of termination, with 10,000 more at risk. Ilston demanded detailed layoff data by Friday, warning the Justice Department for evading legal justification. Pentagon reporters left the U.S. military headquarters on Wednesday after at least 30 news organizations declined to sign a new Pentagon access policy for journalists. Major U.S. and international news outlets have refused to sign the Pentagon's new restrictive media rules on Tuesday, losing their press access credentials. The new policy limits journalists' access and requires pre-approved information. Outlets including the New York Times, AP, AFP, Fox News and other major TV networks said the rules threaten press freedom. An investigation is underway into the Pentagon chief's handing of sensitive information. Los Angeles County has declared a state of emergency following widespread federal immigration raids. The move, typically reserved for natural disasters, aims to mobilize resources to assist affected immigrant communities. Officials say the raids, led by masked federal agents, have created fear among Hispanic residents and slashed immigrant earnings by over 60%. Earlier, ICE operations and the deployment of National Guard troops in the city had drawn massive protests. Similar raids have now extended to other Democratic-led cities, including Chicago and Portland. The emergency declaration could pave the way for rent relief and eviction protection for families hit hardest by the crackdown. An unexpected mid-air scare happened. A U.S. military aircraft carrying Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was forced to make an emergency landing in the United Kingdom after a crack appeared in the plane's windshield. Pentagon spokesman Jean Pernal confirmed that the landing followed standard safety procedures and that everyone on board, including Hegseth, was unharmed. The defense chief had been returning from a brief trip to Brussels. The incident marks yet another close call for U.S. officials traveling abroad. Earlier this year, Secretary of State Marco Rubio's flight to Munich was abruptly diverted back to Washington due to a mechanical failure. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, U.S. President Donald Trump confirms trade war between U.S. and China, calling tariffs a very important tool for national security. France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu to face confidence vote amid calls for parliamentary elections by the opposition parties. Germany pledges further military aid worth €2 billion to Ukraine.
There's so many invaluable artifacts that the British have taken from our country. They robbed us of our self-respect. They robbed us of our honor. Loot was never innocent. It was painful.
The word loot, that was stolen from India too.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. China's new restrictions on rare earth exports has rattled the US again. President Donald Trump now says the US is already in a trade war with China, while the Treasury Secretary has called on the allies to work together and diversify. Now, this is even as China and US prepare for a possible leaders' meeting later this month.
US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that America is already in a trade war with China, justifying the tariffs as a key tool of national security.
Well, you're in one now. Look, we have 100% tariff. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. We would have no defense. You know, they've used tariffs on us, but we've never had anybody sitting in that chair that felt the need to do it. And they've allowed us to be $37 trillion in debt, et cetera, et cetera. Tariffs are a very important tool for our defense, for our national security. If we don't have tariffs, we're not going to have national security.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent slammed Beijing's curbs on rare earth exports, calling it China versus the world, warning that U.S. will neither be commanded nor controlled.
This should be a clear sign to our allies that we must work together, and work together we will. And we are not going to let a group of bureaucrats in Beijing try to manage the global supply chains.
Bessent's comments came as world financial leaders gathered in Washington for the IMF and World Bank meetings. He urged partner countries to de-risk and diversify supply chains away from China. Trump is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping later this month in South Korea during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. But the meeting could be in doubt after Beijing's latest move to restrict rare earth exports. Bureau Report, DD India.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Wednesday that Brazil and the United States will hold negotiation talks on tariffs on Thursday. Lula's remarks at an event in Rio de Janeiro followed a call between him and US President Donald Trump last week, in which Trump designated Secretary of State Marco Rubio to continue tariff negotiations with the Brazilian officials. Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira and Rubio agreed for a meeting last week. According to a statement from Lula's office, during last week's call, the Brazilian president asked Trump to remove the additional 40% tariff. Let's get to updates on Russia-Ukraine crisis now. Germany had pledged further military aid worth €2 billion to Ukraine on Wednesday. After a meeting in Brussels with his Ukrainian and British counterparts, Defense Minister Boris Pistorius announced that Germany is preparing a military aid package to Ukraine worth €2 billion. The package will focus on strengthening Ukrainian air defense and will contain missile defense systems, radar technology and ammunition.
Germany is supporting Ukraine with around €9 billion this year, and we will continue our support at this level. From this amount, we are currently preparing a package worth €2 billion. It will contain missile defense systems, state-of-the-art radar technology and ammunition. We also participate Of course we do. In Pearl, the prioritized Ukraine requirements list with an investment of $500 million.
Furthermore, Germany will provide 400 million euros for the procurement of long-range drones in Ukraine. Pistorius also announced that Germany would be launching a modernization initiative to increase the combat power and service life of land combat systems. While Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky discussed the possibility of U.S. supplying natural gas to Ukraine and expressed hope that his upcoming meeting with President Donald Trump could help end the conflict.
Я говорив з прем'єр-міністром Греції, подякував за підтримку і можемо разом зробити деякі суттєві кроки заради нашої стійкості. В тому числі ми говорили про можливості співпраці в енергетиці, і це, зокрема, можливість постачання американського газу. Домовились ми зустрітись з прем'єром, обговорити всі деталі.
On Wednesday, Russia stated that it has the option to import gasoline amid fuel crisis. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak stated that Russia has made fuel imports possible by cutting the 5% import duty to zero, enabling companies to bring in gasoline and fuel products under current laws. Some Russian regions, including Crimea, are facing gasoline shortages due to Ukrainian drone strikes on oil refineries. In response, Crimea has imposed fuel rationing, limiting motorists to limiting the users to specific amount that would address the fuel shortages, that is 30 litres per purchase, and implemented a 30-day fuel price freeze to ease public dissatisfaction. Let's get you updates on French political crisis now. France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu will face the confidence vote known as censure vote on Thursday. Legislators in the National Assembly will vote on no confidence motion filed by opposition, that is the hard left France Unbowed Party and Marine Le Pen of the far-right National Rally and her allies in the parliament. Opposition parties on the far right and far left are demanding parliamentary elections. The two parties do not hold enough seats to topple Lecornu's government on their own, but the Prime Minister could be ousted if the Socialists and others on the left join forces with them. The Socialists said that they would be prepared to support the new government, but only if it promises a complete suspension of Macron's pension changes. Lecornu told the parliament that the suspension would cost $463 million in 2026. He said it will benefit 3.5 million French citizens. Madagascar's new military leader, General Michael Randrianirina, announced on Wednesday that he would soon be sworn in as the country's president, following a coup that ousted President Andry Rajoelina. CAPSAT commander Randrianirina will be sworn in as transitional president during a solemn hearing of the country's top court on Friday. The military leadership under Colonel Michael Randrianirina has promised elections within 2 years after President Andry Rajoelina was impeached following weeks of popular demonstrations. Colonel Randrianirina's swift takeover draw international concern. The United Nations said that they were deeply concerned by the unconstitutional change of power. The African Union has suspended Madagascar with immediate effect. A Peruvian judge rejected a bid to prevent former President Dina Boluarte, who Congress abruptly ousted last week, from leaving the country while state prosecutors investigate her for alleged abuse of office and money laundering. Boluarte, one of the world's least popular leaders, left office with approved rating ranging between 2% and 4% amid growing unrest over insecurity as transport workers and young people protested against rising extortions and murders. While university students, civil groups, transportation workers and political groups held a national march in the capital to protest against crime and corruption despite the recent ouster of former President Dina Boluarte. Peru has faced years of political turmoil with 7 presidents in as many years. 3 ex-leaders are behind bars and more than half of Peru's also deeply unpopular Congress representatives are under investigation by state prosecutors. Several thousand people rallied in southern Tunisia calling for the closure of an old chemicals factory which locals have blamed for a host of poisonings and health issues. Police fired large amount of tear gas as the procession neared the Tunisian chemical group factory. Hundreds of people retreated, but groups of young people remained, shouting their anger while several individuals fainted. In recent weeks, scores of people have been hospitalized in the city of Gabes, with residents pointing finger at the potentially cancer-causing waste from a phosphate processing plant nearby. Raging with anger, the protesters blamed the plant for collapsed fishing stocks, beach pollution, respiratory diseases and cancer. Tunisian government will request again in 2026 an exceptional direct funding from the central bank worth $3.7 billion. The budget bill aims to fill the fiscal deficit given the scarcity of the external financing. The government in 2025 resorted to borrowing $2.3 billion to repay urgent debts, a move experts have warned could push the country into a spiral of inflation. Tunisia will need internal and external financing amounting to 27 billion Tunisian dollars in 2026, almost the same as last year. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory will cut nearly 550 jobs as part of restructuring not related to the current US government shutdown. JPL is NASA's only federally funded research and development center. It is designed, built and operated, and all 5 of the successful rovers sent so far to the surface of Mars. The layoffs will affect employees across JPL's technical, business and support areas as part of a reorganization that began in July. Director Dave Gallagher says the layoffs are essential to securing JPL's future by creating a leaner infrastructure, focusing on our core technical capabilities, maintaining fiscal discipline. In Vietnam, a special exhibition titled To the Red Land, showcasing outstanding work by female artists and their love for Tay Nguyen, will open next week at the Pleiku Museum in Gia Lai Province. Featuring nearly 50 paintings by 30 female artists from across Vietnam, the event, part of a program launched in 2010 to connect women artists nationwide, celebrates the upcoming Vietnam Women's Day on October 20th. The works, ranging from oil, lacquer, paper and other graphic media, present the majestic beauty of the Central Highland mountains and forests where many unique indigenous cultures intersect. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Prime Minister Modi to visit Andhra Pradesh today to launch and dedicate multiple development projects in Kurnool. We get you a special report on World Food Day aimed at ending hunger and ensuring food security for all.
Faster, smarter, better. That's often the promise that comes with modern technology, but all of it comes at a risk.
To deal with this kind of mismatch, we have created a master plan based on population projections up to 2055.
The main reason for looking for dry areas is both an efficiency reason and an avoidance of corrosion.
We decided that this cannot go on forever. Something needs to be done. And we also were very certain that only technology option will be the best option because human intervention has several limitations.
The big advantage is you don't have to go back to the start of the chain like mining iron ore.
Eisenerz des Anfangs und
you can reuse materials that have already been processed.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching the DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories now. Israel threatens to resume fighting if Hamas does not respect Gaza truce deal, while Hamas says it has handed over all hostage bodies it can access. Trump authorizes CIA operations in Venezuela, raising pressure on the South American country. Maduro government says it is a violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. India's Minister of State Kirti Vardhan Singh reaffirms the country's support for Gaza peace plan at NAM Ministerial Committee meeting on Palestine in Uganda. Says two-state solution is the only path to achieve lasting peace and overall prosperity. In view to strengthen the bonds of friendship and deepening bilateral ties, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka Harini Amarasurya arrives in New Delhi. Indian city of Ahmedabad recommended as the host city for 2030 centenary Commonwealth Games. India reaffirmed its long-standing commitment to the Palestinian cause and the pursuit of peace in West Asia during the meeting of the NAM Ministerial Committee on Palestine in Kampala. Addressing the meeting, India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh, said India welcomes the agreement on the first phase of Trump's Gaza peace plan and commends the initiative and efforts of the US and President Trump. Reiterating India's consistent position on the developments since October 7, 2023 and the conflict that followed, Singh stated that India condemned terrorism and have held that the destruction, despair and suffering of civilians must end. Gaza must have access to food, fuel and other necessities without hindrance. And also the ceasefire must be in place immediately. He called for all parties to uphold their commitments to ensure that peace and calm prevail. Acknowledging the diplomatic role played by regional stakeholders, the Indian minister added that India also expressed its appreciation to the leadership of the two NAM members, Egypt and Qatar, which played instrumental role in realizing the agreement. He also underlined that India's position on Palestine has always been rooted in historical support for the Palestinian people's rights. Concluding his address, the minister reiterated India's readiness to contribute constructively to the peace process and its enduring partnership with NAM members. The NAM Ministerial Committee on Palestine was established under India's presidency during NAM Summit in New Delhi in 1983. Sri Lankan Prime Minister Harini Amarasurya undertaking a 3-day visit to India, her first since assuming the charge of the top office. Sri Lankan Prime Minister will meet Indian political leaders to discuss bilateral issues of mutual interest. The visiting Prime Minister, a distinguished alumna of the Hindu College of Delhi University, will also visit her alma mater. In addition, she will participate in a business event to strengthen commercial linkages between the two countries. This visit continues the tradition of regular high-level exchanges between India and Sri Lanka, advancing the deep and multifaceted bilateral ties. It will further strengthen the bonds of friendship, reinforced by India's Mahasagar vision and its neighborhood-first policy. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati will be in India this morning. During his 2-day visit, Badr al-Belati will be meeting Indian political leaders, discussing issues to strengthen bilateral ties. On October 17th, the visiting Foreign Minister Abdelati will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital. The high-profile visit comes shortly after Union Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh met with Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt during the Gaza Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh earlier this week. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh on Thursday. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will lay the foundation stone, inaugurate and dedicate to the nation multiple development projects in Kurnool. These projects span across key sectors including industry, power transmission, roads, railways, defence manufacturing and petroleum and natural gas. These projects will generate major infrastructure and industrial investments in the state and will enhance the connectivity by better roads and railways network. Energy and defence projects will produce advanced electro-optical systems for the Indian Defence Forces, promoting self-reliance and high-skill employment. Every year, October 16th is celebrated as World Food Day, a global call to action to end hunger and ensure food security for all. This year is especially significant as it marks the 80th anniversary of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The theme this year, Hand in Hand for Better Foods and a Better Future, emphasizes cooperation to transform the world's agri-food systems for people, the planet and prosperity. India once again a food deficit. In fact, India, once a food deficit nation, today stands tall as a global powerhouse in food production and distribution, ensuring that millions do not go hungry. For more, take a look at this report.
At its headquarters in Rome, the FAO is celebrating 80 years of service with the inauguration of a new food agriculture museum and network. Opening its doors this World Food Day, the museum is a symbol of innovation and collaboration, showcasing how nations have transformed their food systems to feed a growing world sustainably. India's journey from dependence to self-reliance in food production has been nothing short of transformative. From tackling famine and shortages in the 1960s, the nation today feeds over 81 crore people through a robust network of welfare schemes and digital food distribution systems. The National Food Security Act guarantees subsidized grains to nearly 2/3 of India's population, ensuring that no one goes to bed hungry. Meanwhile, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, extended for 5 more years, continues to provide free food grains to the same 81 crore beneficiaries, a monumental step in ensuring social equity and stability. To tackle malnutrition, the PM Poshan scheme provides nutritious meal to millions of school children across the country. The Antodaya Anna Yojana focuses on the most vulnerable families, covering nearly 9 crore individuals, including more than 2 crore women. In addition, over 400 lakh metric tons of fortified rice have been distributed, a major stride towards improving micronutrient intake among the poor. Ensuring price stability and affordability, the government's Price Stabilization Fund has helped curb volatility in essential commodities. Affordable products such as Bharat Atta, Bharat Dal and Bharat Rice have been introduced to make nutritious food accessible to every household, reinforcing India's commitment to food for all. The Indian thali itself has gained global recognition. The WWF Living Planet report lauds it for its nutrition balance and sustainability, noting that if the world adopted India's largely plant-based diet, we would need less than 1 Earth's worth of resources to sustain global food production by 2050. As the world comes together to mark the World Food Day 2025, India's achievement stands as an inspiring example of what determination, innovation, and inclusive policy can achieve. By ensuring food security for millions and promoting sustainable food practices, India is not just feeding its people, it is also helping shape a healthier, hungry-free world. Bureau Report, DD India.
The 5th edition of bilateral maritime exercise Samudra Shakti, hosted by the Indian Navy, is underway at Visakhapatnam. The participating units include INS Kavaratti, under the aegis of Eastern Naval Command, and the Indonesian Navy ship KRI John Lai, a corvette with an integral helicopter. Now, the joint drill will culminate on 17th of October. Exercise Samudra Shakti is a key bilateral engagement aimed at enhancing interoperability, strengthening mutual understanding and sharing best practices between the two navies. The exercise highlights shared commitment of both nations towards maintaining stability and peace in the Indo-Pacific region. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, India's GST collections soar to record levels in September after major reforms hailed as a Diwali gift for citizens. DP World India Championships 2025 tees off from October 16th to 19th at Delhi Golf Club.
There's so many invaluable artifacts that the British have taken from our country. They robbed us of our self-respect. They robbed us of our honor. Loot was never innocent. It was painful.
The word loot, that was stolen from India too.
faster, smarter, better. That's often the promise that comes with modern technology, but all of it comes at a risk.
To deal with this kind of mismatch, we have created a master plan based on population projections up to 2055.
The main reason for looking for dry areas is both an efficiency reason and an avoidance of corrosion.
We decided that this cannot go on forever. Something needs to be done. And we also were very certain that only technology option will be the best option because human intervention has several limitations.
The big advantage is you don't have to go back to the start of the chain like mining iron ore.
Eisenerz des Anfangs und
You can reuse materials that have already been processed.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. Now let's get you updates from the world of business now. India's GST collections have hit a record high of 1.89 lakh crore rupees in September 2025. This is the highest ever. This surge comes after major GST reforms rolled out on September 22nd, bringing relief to traders, patients and even home buyers. From healthcare to real estate and everyday essentials, the reforms are being hailed as a real gift for the people during Diwali. Here's our report.
There has been a record turnover of goods and services tax in September 2025, with monthly gross collections touching 1.89 lakh crore rupees. Moreover, nation's mood is upbeat after the next-gen GST reforms implemented on 22nd September this year. Be it traders or common man, every segment of society is hailing this move.
The GST revision, we can feel the difference when we do the purchase. There are lots of margin difference in different products which we use in household daily activities. So there is probably like the monthly budget that we are planning in a family basis. There is a much more difference between the usual price and after the GST revision.
Prices of goods have stabilized with the tax system becoming transparent, leading to ease of doing business. The Indian government has also done away with GST rate on life-saving drugs and health insurance. This move is a big relief for patients suffering from serious diseases.
Reduction in the drug GST will reduce ultimately the cost of drugs, which can be utilized by many more cancer patients, and the cure rates and control of cancer rates will increase, and many more patients will be cured and benefit from this step.
People of Hyderabad termed the doing away of GST on insurance a very welcome step.
The new reforms, what it has been taken by our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, we welcome those reforms. In medical insurance and life insurance also, it totally abolishes the GST, which is a very positive and good move on the part of central government.
The GST rate reduction has also given a big boost to the real estate sector.
I don't think that there is any doubt that GST rationalization is a very welcome move for both real estate as well as hospitality sector. It's a very strong signal, not only in terms of viability as well as liquidity availability in the market, but as well as the fact that there's a policy shift.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that farmers are also reaping the benefits of GST reforms.
किसानों के उपयोग वाले वस्तुओं के ऊपर भी टैक्स कम हुआ है। सोलर पावर्ड इक्विपमेंट या आपके ट्रैक्टर, टिलर, एग्रीकल्चरल मशीनरी, पूरे के पूरे जितने भी किसान अन्नदाता उपयोग करते हैं, उन सब में जीएसटी का कम रेट हो गया है 5% या कभी कंप्लीट वेवर भी हुआ है.
The impact of GST reforms can be seen in every sector, from cars and electronics to groceries and fashion industry. It's not just a tax reform, it's a festival of savings, a revival of demand, and as many call it, the real Diwali gift from PM Modi to the people of India. Bureau Report, DD India.
Tesla has urged Delaware Supreme Court to reinstate Elon Musk's record $56 billion pay package, the largest in corporate history. Tesla's attorney argued that shareholders lawfully reinstated the record-breaking deal last year, calling it the most informed vote in Delaware history. The appeal follows a lower court's stunning 2024 decision to cancel Musk's pay, citing board bias and lack of transparency. That ruling sparked outrage among corporate leaders, triggering a Dexit, major firms moving to their legal homes to Texas and Nevada. Now, Delaware's reputation as America's corporate hub hangs in the balance. If Musk loses, Tesla's $25 billion replacement plan still rewards him handsomely. Let's get to global market updates now. Stocks rose across most of Asia on Thursday, with the chip sector buoyant following a strong rally among the US peers overnight. A robust start to the earnings season on Wall Street also helped lift the mood. Simmering trade friction between Beijing and Washington increased the appeal of safe havens like gold, which renewed a record high, and the Japanese yen, while undercutting the dollar. Japan's Nikkei advanced 0.8%, with chip and artificial intelligence related shares boosting the index. Taiwanese shares climbed 1.4%, South Korea's Kospi jumped 1.8%, and Australia's equity benchmark added 1.1%, with all the three touching lifetime highs. Hong Kong and Chinese shares were also higher after an initial wobble, despite the drag from trade tensions. The US stock futures were overall flat, following a 0.4 gain for the S&P 500 and 0.6% rise for the tech-heavy Nasdaq overnight. Meanwhile, gold rose another 0.6% in the latest session to reach an unprecedented $4,223.41 per ounce. Up next, we'll turn focus to sports. The Commonwealth Sport Executive Board said that the Indian city of Ahmedabad has been recommended as the host city for the 2030 Games. The board said it will propose Ahmedabad in the western state of Gujarat to the full Commonwealth Sport membership for approval at the General Assembly in Glasgow on November 26th. Ahmedabad has been chosen ahead of Abuja, Nigeria, by the Commonwealth Sport Evaluation Commission. The 2030 Games are set to commemorate 100 years since the inaugural event was held in Hamilton City of Canada. India last hosted the Games in 2010 in Delhi. Golf's biggest stars are set to descend on the Delhi Golf Club as the DP World India Championship tees off from 16 to 19th October 2025, bringing together an exceptional field led by world number 2 Rory McIlroy. DD India's Abhishek Prasad gets us the preview.
The stage is set for inaugural DP World India Championships as some of the biggest names in men's golf will vie for glory at the Delhi Golf Club from Thursday. The event, scheduled to run from October 16 to 19, will be the most lucrative golf tournament ever held in India.
From world-class swings to homegrown talent, this DP India World Championship is where India's golfing dream meets global glory.
Featuring a star-studded international field, including Ryder Cup stars Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, Victor Hovland and Shane Lowry, the tournament marks a new chapter for professional golf in India. Career Grand Slam winner McIlroy marks his first appearance in India this week with a return to competitive action after helping Europe win the Ryder Cup at Bethpage.
I think India has a wonderful culture. I think the people are unbelievably welcoming and hospitable and gentle, I guess would be and it's a pleasure to be here. Golf has become quite a big sport in this country, but hopefully I can help it become even bigger, which would be a great thing.
Flying the flag for India will be Shubhankar Sharma and Anirban Lahiri, who have previously won on the DP World Tour. Sharma expressed excitement about returning to Delhi Golf Club, highlighting the strong field and the event's importance for Indian golf, noting the growing popularity of the sport and the opportunity for Indian players to compete against the best.
This is definitely the biggest event that's happened in India. And I'm really happy guys like Rory and Tommy are here. It's a very proud moment for everyone in India and for Indian golf. I hope there'll be an Indian winner this week and there'll be many Indians in the top 10. Tournaments like this will definitely help in enhancing it furthermore. And now it being an Olympic sport, there's going to be much more impetus given to golf. There'll be a lot more funding and, events like this just it's more eyeballs on the sport when the world number 2 comes to your country.
A $4 million purse is unprecedented in Indian golf. That signals serious investment and confidence in the potential of golf in India. Having multiple DP World Tour events in India in the same season, this plus the Hero Indian Open emphasizes that India is becoming an important destination on the international golf calendar.
With global stars and India's finest golfers sharing the same fairway, this DP India World Championship is not just a tournament, it's a testament to how far India has come and how further it can go. With cameraman Manoj, this is Abhishek Prasad at the Delhi Golf Club, DD India.
The field for the 2026 FIFA World Cup is taking shape as several nations from every continent battle it out to book their spot in the main draw, from Cape Verde's fairy tale run to Europe's established powerhouses. Let's take a look at who's made it so far and who's still fighting to join them.
The 2-year qualifying marathon for the 2026 FIFA World Cup is nearing its end, and the picture for football's grandest stage is becoming clearer. With 48 teams set to compete, several nations have already punched their ticket to the next summer's tournament. This will be the first World Cup in history to be hosted by 3 nations, marking a milestone for global football. From Asia, powerhouses Japan, Iran, South Korea, Saudi Arabia and Qatar headline the list, joined by Jordan and Uzbekistan, both scripting history with consistent performances through the qualifiers. Saudi Arabia confirmed their 7th World Cup appearance with a tense draw against Iraq. Africa's qualifying campaign brought both emotion and surprise. Traditional giants Egypt, Ghana, Morocco, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Algeria, South Africa and Tunisia made it through, but the story of the round belongs to Cape Verde. The island nation, with a population under 600,000, stunned Cameroon to top their group and qualify for their first ever World Cup, a true fairy tale moment for African football. From Europe, England became the first team to qualify, doing so in style with a 5-0 win over Latvia. England maintained a perfect record, scoring 18 goals without conceding. Meanwhile, Spain continued their flawless run in Group E, inching closer with a 4-0 win over Bulgaria. Elsewhere, Portugal, led by the evergreen Cristiano Ronaldo, were denied early qualification after a late Hungarian equalizer in a thrilling 2-2 draw. In South America, it's business as usual for the continent's giants. Argentina, Brazil, Colombia and Paraguay have all qualified, extending their dominance in CONMEBOL. In North and Central America, the traditional trio, United States, Canada and Mexico, have already qualified as co-hosts, while the rest of CONCACAF continues its fight. The 2026 FIFA World Cup will kick off on June 11, with the final slated for July 19. As more teams prepare to book their places, the stage is set for football's grandest celebration. Mehraj Singh's report for DD India.
The International Union for Conservation of Nature's World Conservation Congress concluded in Abu Dhabi after a week of global deliberations on climate and biodiversity. Over 10,000 delegates from governments, NGOs and indigenous groups adopted landmark resolutions tackling wildlife trade, synthetic biology and fossil fuel phase-out. The Congress launched the Abu Dhabi Call to Action, setting IUCN's 20-year vision for climate resilience and biodiversity recovery. With that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Now, this app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.